am Amy Vetter, and welcome to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. This valuable time is for you to pause in your day and go on your own self-journey. Discover the beliefs that are holding you back from living your best life at work and at home. Learn from the guests on this show as they share their inspirational stories on how they found ways to break internal beliefs that were no longer serving them. Because if you believe you can, you will. And our podcast begins now. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I interview Alison Reiff-Martin, a CPA and the CEO and founder of Reiff-Martin CPA and Business Advisory Services. She has over 30 years of accounting experience, ranging from a staff accountant to director of accounting to now being an entrepreneur. Alison enjoys collaborating with clients to find simple solutions to complex problems. It's through her accounting experience in broadcast television, radio, and agency industries that she learned the importance of being a trusted advisor and partner. She has a passion for translating accounting best practices into simple and practical strategies to help her clients grow and achieve goals. During this discussion, we talk about Alison's journey from starting out to wanting to becoming a French teacher to getting into accounting because she liked to listen to her accounting professor and learning about how just by being open to opportunity and going for it, it has created success in her career. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs. And today I'm with Alison Reiff-Martin. And Alison, do you want to start us off just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I love listening to your podcast. And frankly, it was quite a thrill to have you as the keynote speaker at my conference. So this is really quite a thrill for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on.
Oh, no problem. So I am the CEO and founder of Reiff-Martin CPA and Business Advisory Services. I have had my own firm now for 4 years, which I can't believe it's year 4. But what we do is we provide tax and accounting services to small businesses and individuals. It's a lot of fun. I really like working with my small business clients who I do accounting. Like I said, I do accounting and tax work for them. It's kind of fun to evolve with them as their firm grows and I'm growing too. So I've learned a lot from that. And I also bring to the table over 30 years of accounting and tax experience from staff accountant all the way up to a CFO role. So I bring a lot to the table and it's really a lot of fun. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. So we've talked a lot about your journey, but kind of wanted to start from your beginnings of when you were younger and what you imagined doing when you grew up versus how you got to where you are today.
Well, so I'll be honest with you. When I went off to college, I thought I was going to be a French teacher.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
what was it about French?
Well, it is the language of love, and it's really, and it was really cool. And I just thought it was so fun to be able to speak another language. And French, I really just liked listening to it, and I liked listening to people speak it. And gosh, it was fun, and I loved getting to get up in front of an audience and talk about it. And then I got to college and got to advanced French grammar and realized, no, I do not want to be a French teacher. In the 1980s, there was a lot of pressure for everybody to be a business major because that was going to be the guarantee to a job.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to do it because I wanted to do something creative. But again, advanced French grammar really kind of messed it up for me. So I went back to the business classes and I took an intermediate accounting class, and the professor, to be honest, was a wonderful teacher. He had this great voice that you just wanted to listen to and you really wanted to listen. And so I spent a lot of time going to his office hours because I really just wanted to listen to him speak. And
sounds like you had a crush on him.
I'm going to confess that I did. But I thought you can't go to office hours and just stare and listen to him. You have to have real questions. And so I would make up every question I could think of to go talk to him. So we got there, and because he would explain it so well, he made accounting really come alive for me. And in the classes where we learned the statement of cash flows, and I thought it was fun to discover that I really liked puzzles, where you knew what the answer is, how do you get to it?
Right.
So like if the number was 2, was it 2 plus 2 equals 4, or was it 5 minus 1 equals 4? And that I thought was so much fun to just sit there and figure that out. So it was from there that I realized I really do want to be an accountant because it's fun. It's fun trying to figure stuff out. So thankfully, I was offered, I went to school at Indiana University, and I was offered a job with the Prudential Insurance Company in New Jersey. And coming from a small town in Ohio, thought, wow, this is my chance to move to New Jersey and be close to the big city, so that I could, not just be involved with a great company, but be close to a city and something exciting compared to what I was doing growing up in a small town in Ohio. So from there, what I came to realize with my very first supervisor was ask lots of questions and volunteer for everything, because accounting can be boring, as we all know, but it's only as boring as you make it. If you make yourself available to get involved, then your world opens up and you have more opportunities than you can ever think of. And he was completely right. I mean, I got opportunities to work on 10Ks, 10Q filing, various SEC filings, consolidations, and that was really helpful as I progressed in my career. Ultimately spending the majority of my time in broadcast, television, and radio companies. And it was there, and from there, what I realized, working with the director of engineering at my first TV station, was you are only good as an accountant as you understand the business. And it was really helpful to me to be a better partner with him and the rest of the company by making sure I understand how TV worked. And what I realized was, wow, it's a lot of fun. And that has been my theme throughout my career, was understand the business, and A, you're a better partner, and B, it makes your job more fun. And that's what I've tried to do with my clients, is make sure I understand what they do so that I can anticipate things that are coming up for them, or figure out how I can help them better as a better partner and advisor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's how I got to where I am today. So I know that was long-winded, but I always love telling those stories about how I came to realize your job can be fun if you make it fun.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people go about the daily tasks of whatever their jobs are, but not thinking about how do you make a bigger impact with it, and find that creative side of any job is there. I think from a creativity standpoint, people don't realize, we get lumped into left-brained or right-brained, but there's really no such thing, because you need your entire brain in order to do critical thinking skills and executive functions and so forth, in order to not just take the numbers on the paper, but actually dive deeper into them and try to understand solutions.
Exactly right. That's what I've just come to learn. You can't just look at a number and say it's 2. Well, what does that 2 mean?
Yeah.
And what does it mean based on your perception versus my perception? And how can we both make it mean the same thing or not? And that's again what makes the job fun.
Right. Yeah. Or finding the truth in the number.
Yeah, exactly.
So what for you were some big learnings along the way about yourself? Were there things going into it that you had beliefs about? Obviously you had a belief system about business that it was going to be boring, and you broke through that. But were there other things going in your career that you thought were going to work for you based on watching your parents, or any kind of, things like that you've had to go, wait, that's not actually working for me?
I will say my mom and dad were big influences in my career. And I think everybody's parents are big influences, but I think my dad and my mom in particular. My mom was the first to go to college in her family. In fact, she has not just one, but two master's degrees.
Oh, wow.
And
In what?
A master in social work. And then she worked, got her MBA in finance, and then became a salesperson for Ameritech, which is now AT&T. So anyway, her biggest client was the Air Force, and she was fortunate enough to play a big role in the Dayton-Bosnian Peace Accord in 1992. And you may think this is kind of silly, but she set up the phone system. Well, I say silly because I say all she did, but all she did was set up the communication system for the two parties that were involved. And had either party not had a telephone, there wouldn't be a Dayton-Bosnian Peace Accord. So it was kind of cool to think my mom played a huge role in that, and that she was very courageous and always took chances. And that made a huge impact on me, that if you want something, you have to go for it, and you have to figure out how to get it.
Yeah.
So that for me was that has always been a driving factor in my life as to how I've approached my career. If you want it, you got to go out and figure out how to get it. And because of her and because of my dad, I think A, I wouldn't be here without them, but B, I wouldn't be where I am without them, always encouraging and pushing me along. But at the same time, they were workaholics. So work was and is a big deal to them. And I learned a lot of that too. And it's over the course of my life realizing there is more to life than work, and how to do the balance, kind of like what you're talking, the B3 Institute, Business Balance and Bliss. How do you incorporate all three? And that's been something I've really been trying in the past couple of years to be more cognizant of, that work is fun, but it can't be the only thing that can be fun. You have to find something else in your life to make it meaningful. So
how do you do that?
Well, actually, I go to a lot of yoga classes to make myself be mindful and think about. I get together with friends and spend a lot of time with my husband and my kids.
Yeah.
So
well, but because it's easy to become a workaholic in this profession, any profession. If you're a workaholic, you're a workaholic. Right. So how do you limit yourself in order to make sure that you create time for that and not feel stressed out about leaving work? I haven't always been great at, but I've been trying to work harder at setting boundaries. Like, nope, you cannot call me at 8:00 at night to ask me an accounting question, because there is no accounting emergency at 8:00 at night. So I'm really trying harder to be conscious of the boundaries. Because again, in the end, work, like I said, is fun, but it can't be the only thing in your life that's fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what did your dad do?
My dad was a risk manager, insurance for, it's no longer in existence, but the Meade Corporation. They made those cool trapper keepers that everybody had.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And again, what I learned from him, again, he could only be a good risk manager if he understood the business. And he got the coolest job to get to go out to the plants and the mills to see how paper was made. But again, he couldn't insure properly if he didn't understand how paper was made. So from him, I learned, ask questions, be involved, get involved any way that you can to make sure you understand the business, so that you can do a better job at making sure that the company is properly insured. And I think through their willingness to volunteer for stuff, they gave me many opportunities to just get to see stuff that I wouldn't have known about beforehand, like going to their various conferences, or getting to hang out with my dad in New York City on a business trip at 13 and realizing this is where I want to live.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So like I said, they played a big role in how my career has been shaped.
Yeah, that was a big reality check for me, because I've always traveled a lot with my kids my whole life, because of the work I do. And we were at dinner this summer, and, I've got a son in college, one in high school. So it's kind of starting to talk about the future, like, where will mom be when, they're in college or out of college? And I'm like, well, I'll just go. If you're here, I'll travel back here. And they're like, we're not staying here. I'm like, where are you going? And then one said they want to go to California and the other one to New York. I'm like, oh, great. Like, but then I had to sit back and go, I gave them the exposure. Now they've started in their head of the things that started picturing their life, and you don't even realize it's happening. And that's why it's so important to expose your kids to the things you do.
Right, exactly. So that they can see, here's why I do work so hard, so that I can take you on those trips, or to get them ready to go off and leave you as you're crying, thinking, oh, my baby left me.
Exactly. I'm like, I created this monster, so there we go. Exactly. Yeah. So we talked about, so you had moved to Dallas to be part of this media company, right? As a controller.
Right.
And then you made a decision to go out on your own. So why don't you kind of talk about your story of actually taking that leap of faith and how you even got there?
So to be quite honest, I've actually always wanted to own my own firm, but it took a lot of confidence to get there. And I remember I started a job with a digital media advertising agency, and I was reading my CPA magazine and looking at all the CPA firms that were for sale. And I said to my husband, I would really like to go out on my own. And he said, great, go answer these questions. And if you can do it, if you can answer them to your satisfaction, go ahead, start your own business. So talked to a friend of mine who is a social worker who, long story, but she invited me to her office to see the possibilities of owning my own firm. And
that's a great idea.
And I was, and she toured me around the office and said, I have to go meet with some patients. You sit here and have lunch, and I'll talk to you later. I'm having lunch, and this man walks up to me, and I invite him to sit at the table with me, and we start talking. He says, or I ask him what he does. He tells me he's an attorney, and then he says, and why are you here? And I said, well, my friend's invited me here to have lunch. I'm a CPA. I'm looking to branch out on my own, and she wants me to see the possibilities. And no joke, he leans forward and says, I could be your first client. And I said,
oh my God.
Like, why, yes, absolutely.
When you put it out into the universe, right?
I was going to say I think that's another thing I came to learn was you speak it to the universe and it will happen. So after he and I agreed to meet later to discuss the specifics of him becoming my first client, I ran to the car and I called my husband. I said, oh my gosh, Phil, I think I have my first client. He says, great, start your own business. And what I realized is after you get one, it's easier to get number two. And here I am 4 years later, and I'm so glad that I had the confidence and quite honestly, I have the personality to be open enough to invite you to come sit with me and talk to you. And my kids always make fun of me for this, but I don't care. I don't think I've ever met a stranger, and I can walk away knowing a lot about your story, and that a lot of times works and results in great positive relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Is he still your client?
No, actually, after about 3 years, he became too big for the services that I could provide.
Yeah.
Going a different direction, but it was completely fine because he's still great. And, but again, he gave me the confidence to go out on my own.
Yeah. And I think that's another important thing is knowing where your sweet spot is.
Right.
And not trying to take on things, because as soon as you start taking things on, unless you want to, but if you've got a certain process for, persona of a client, a lot of people don't define that for themselves. They just take whatever comes in the door. It can actually throw you off kilter because then it takes you away from, tending to other clients that are your more regulars and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's, I think, something I've learned over the past couple of years is it's not for me about volume. It's about the relationships with clients that I have and picking and choosing so that it's fun for both parties.
Right.
They want and I get what I want, which is, somebody fun to work with.
Yes. So how do you think the learnings that you've had along the way have helped you in your business or working with your clients? What is the impact that you want people to walk away with?
That, not that I'm just easy to work with, but I'm here to help you. And I'm a positive person. I have positive energy, and my goal is to help you find a solution. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm mom to the clients. It's here, let me help you so that you can be successful, or here's, did you realize this is coming on? Let me help you with that. Or by the way, don't forget about, so that's what I've learned along the way is positive energy really helps get you far, but also producing and performing.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times when we step back and look at our strengths, we don't realize, like it can be the littlest things that ends up being the thing that makes us unique. And right. When we're intentional about really bringing those out, and I don't know if it's something you realize about yourself, or is it something that people have told you about yourself, and then you're like, oh, I'm hearing this 3 or 4 times about me. This is something that I want to make sure everyone, like, now I got to really go harder on that area of me because it's something people remember when they walk away.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of feel like that. I've been told a lot of times I'm the most positive person, and that I always have a smile on my face, and I'm always happy to help you. And I want to help you solve your problem. I'm not just here to do, quote unquote, the boring accounting, because like I said before, accounting as a process is boring, but it's what you do with it that makes it interesting.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about you starting your own conference.
Yes.
I think that's another big hurdle of getting an understanding of yourself and just being able to do something like that. So tell me the story.
So I have been reading last year read listened to lots of podcasts and read lots of articles that said we're all supposed to transition our CPA firm from the more traditional tax preparer bookkeeping mode. That technology is changing how we're supposed to handle our practice. What the articles didn't say was how you do it, or what was the quote unquote roadmap that you're supposed to follow to do this. And everything I had read too seemed to be geared toward bigger firms. So anyway, I was listening to Jim Burke, who is a managing partner with them, talking about this, everyone needs to move to advisory services. And he concluded the podcast interview with, here's my email address, ask me any questions you want. And I was like thinking, well, that's a complete invitation. I'm going to ask all. And so, again, he and I were talking, and I said, well, I have this great idea that I've been thinking about, and I can't stop thinking about it. What if we did a conference that was geared towards the solo practitioner and the small CPA firm, and we could make it, the roadmap to business advisory services? And he said, that is an awesome idea. I completely encourage you to go for it. And I sat on the idea for a couple months thinking, oh, can I really pull it off? And then when my friend said, why aren't you pulling this off? And I said, you know what, you're right. And then I, listened to one of your interviews, and I thought you would make an awesome keynote speaker because you seem, you're kind of along my vibe, nice and confident, and you're, yoga has really had a great impact on you. And, you kind of like me understand the accounting is just one thing, but it's all about understanding the business. And then I emailed you and you said yes. I thought, wow, now I have to do this. And everybody I asked to be a speaker said yes. And I was like, okay, so the universe is telling me that I have to do this. And it was, what I came to realize from this whole event was, again, A, I'm worth it. B, this kind of helps me, firm up my idea of how I want to take my firm. But 2, I can have a lot of influence with the community. And again, I like planning events, and it was so fun to put together, and I was so pleased with the outcome of it. So, and the feedback I got from everyone else said they loved it too. So
yeah, I mean, it is, I think, a very inspiring that you just went after something you did in a short period of time. Really, I mean, yeah. That's usually, planned out over a year period, and you did it in 4 months, or?
Yeah, I did it in 4 months. My big takeaway was, sometimes being impulsive can really pay off. And now that I've got it under my belt, I know what things I can do differently, better, the same for next year. So it's just as
Yeah.
great an event. But it was just so fun. It was just so fun. And I remember thinking, when I was trying to prepare my opening remarks, what would I say? And the idea was I thought of my grandfather, a farmer, and his idea was, or my big advice, or his big advice to me was, when in doubt, turn left. And with the idea behind that, he meant that is, if you get lost while you're driving, don't do what everyone else does and turn right, turn left, and you'll still end up where you're supposed to be. And I thought that was silly, but lo and behold, that advice has always worked. When in doubt, do something different.
Yes.
Be courageous and be bold, and it'll pay off. Or it may not, but if you go with the right attitude, it'll pay off. And excuse me, that kind of, to me, was what the conference was about. Turn left and do something different. And it has given me the most amazing boost of confidence to move forward with my firm, and how I'm going to handle it going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand what you want to get out of, so I love what he said about turning left and taking the risk of doing something different. When you do that, you kind of also have to have, like, in your head, just like your business, what is it that I want to know? How would I know I achieved something? Because a lot of times the first time you do a conference or the first time you do a business venture, it takes a while to
Right.
see the payoff or whatever. So what are the things that would give you the idea that you created success for yourself or people around you?
What were my ideas that gave me success? Well, I think with the conference, hearing from people that they thought it was fantastic, that it was not the boring, I'll say boring, but the ones where you go to listen to information about an accounting pronouncement. This one actually gave real concrete information for people to how to conceivably steer their business. That to me was, and knowing that I've spent a lot of my life wanting to be helpful and wanting to be a sharer, that to me was a pinnacle of success. Or hearing from my clients that, I've helped them save, money on their tax bill, or help them figure out that maybe they need to take a different course correction, or now there's an opportunity to grow their business a different way. That to me is the pinnacle of success, that they're asking me for help and asking me questions.
Yeah. And that was the whole reason I was asking that question, is because it's not always money. Right. And a lot of times when people go after things, they'll be disappointed. I remember when I opened my yoga studio, I had hoped, like, one day I'd be able to just run a yoga studio, and then realize, like, there's no money in a yoga studio.
Right.
And but then I had to sit back and go, what is it? Why do I have it? And at the end of the day, it had nothing to do about the money. It had to do with the healing that people were having there and the impact it was having in people's lives. And I think it's important we define what things are important to us besides the financial impact. And obviously you want to make money. I mean, not saying that. But, as you're trying to get there, there's got to be other wins along the way that you're like, you know what, that was good enough for year one, or that was good enough for year two.
Right. I was going to say, the conference to me was great, but there are so many things that could be done better and different and the same. Or just in my business, when I think of how I started out, it's not the same business that, I started out with that I have now, and my goals are a little different.
Right.
So I'm, but going through the 3 years of having it right now, I've got it more clarified as to what I want.
Exactly. So I like to end with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So I pick a category, you pick a category, either family and friends, money, spiritual, or health.
I would say health.
All right. Awesome. I don't get a lot of people that pick that one. So good.
Well, I kind of feel like I'm picking health because I'm not 20, I'm 50.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's important. All right. So things or actions I don't have that I want.
In this particular case with health, honestly, I would say when it comes to food, I am a stress eater. And I need to work on improving my ability to say no. I'm not going to use food as my answer.
Awesome.
Or what do they say? If hunger is not the problem, then what's the question?
Yeah, and I'll give you a little plug there. I'm doing a whole mindfulness series for the AICPA that's coming out soon, and there's a whole mindfulness article I wrote on eating.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Especially during busy season, so that people are intentional about the food, that they can monitor their energy and don't just pick what's ever there. So
exactly right.
So things or actions I do have that I want.
Well, I will say this is what I'm improving on, being intentional about making exercise an important part of my day. My dog and I go for a walk every single morning. It's a 30-minute walk. I can't run a marathon, but I can, walk around the neighborhood for 20 to 30 minutes. And she and I have a great time looking at squirrels and, enjoying the walk together. So that's been, trying to be more intentional of that and going to yoga classes where I spend time wondering if I can touch my toes as opposed to what's stressing me out in life.
Yes, exactly. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter.
I don't touch my toes.
Just let that go. So things or actions I don't have that I don't want.
That I don't have, that I don't want. This one to me seems like a hard one to answer because what I don't have is I don't know how to answer that one. So
it could be like sickness or things that you're actually trying to prevent from happening.
Oh, so I'm actually trying to prevent. Well, obviously, right now with it being busy season, how to keep myself in good shape so that I'm not up until 2 a.m. wondering if I can get everything done. So that's something I don't want, and it's all about, I think, setting boundaries.
Yes. All right, last one. Things or actions that I do have that I don't want.
Goes back to the stress eating. I'm pretty sure it's not buying Ben & Jerry's ice cream or, whenever I'm anxious about something, not just mindlessly reaching for a piece of food. Getting up and going for a walk or getting a glass of water or calling my husband and saying, I'm really stressed out. And he'll say, great, talk to me about whatever it is I'm talking about. And just, diverting myself so that I don't reach for the ice cream.
That's awesome.
The cake or the cookies. So
yeah, my best friend and I were just talking about this because she's like she just hangs out with the kids and then just has a whole pint of ice cream and we'll just eat the whole thing because it's just a group activity. Right. And that's one of the things she was talking about too. It's
it's so easy to just
not make it mindless. If you're going to eat it, at least be aware of every bite you're taking and
realize that it's a choice, it's a choice to make. And if you want to have it, but plan for it.
Yeah. One of the exercises we do, so I run teacher training for yoga teachers that want to become teachers. But we have a homework assignment and it's a mindfulness exercise, but you have to take an hour to eat an orange.
Oh my God, really? Wow.
So, and it is a really, really hard exercise, but it makes you really intentional about eating it, smelling it, that you're not hungry, like all this stuff. And it's actually a pretty good exercise to try, but because we shove down food so fast that we're not necessarily actually having the sensory around it.
And then it makes it easier. Like you're saying, since we eat so fast, we don't even choose good food.
Right.
So again, if you're going to spend an hour eating ice cream or an orange, make it the best orange that you can buy, like a blood orange versus a regular orange. Or if you're going to eat ice cream, do it, but make sure it's really good ice cream. So don't buy, the stuff that comes at the convenience store. Go to grocery store and buy the best one you can because it's ice cream. You want to make sure, and that's
enjoy every bite if you're going to eat it.
Exactly. So that's something I've been kind of thinking about this year.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything that we didn't cover or that you want to emphasize as we close out our talk today that you want people to leave with?
That I think life is a lot of opportunity, and you have to figure out what your opportunity is and go for it. Because the only thing that can happen is you hear no. And if you hear no, move on to the next thing. But be courageous and go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alison, for being on today. It was great talking to you again.
Oh, yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
And now it's time to take some mindful moments about this interview with Alison and really diving into the energy that Alison creates in order to create success in her life. And one thing I've noticed about Alison, just getting to know her, is her energy is infectious, and her way of looking at things so positively has allowed her to take chances that a lot of people may not take. So when we talked about her really starting out as wanting to be a French teacher and moving into business because it's a safer career, I know a lot of people choose their careers based on that. I was one of them. And I think it's important to understand who our influences are when we do get involved. And I just think it was so funny, her story about her first professor. But that really is what started making accounting interesting to her, where she understood it was more than just the work. It was all the mechanics that got you to the answer and the things that you needed to learn along the way. And I think no matter what your profession is, there can be an outward look at the result and thinking that's the job versus all the mechanics of doing it. I remember younger playing violin and viola and realizing that people didn't think about when they watch a concert of a symphony and it sounds so beautiful and harmonized and perfect. People don't realize the hours and hours of just playing one measure of music to get it right and to get it coordinated, and all the different ways you have to get there to get that to harmonize. And I think her analogy to understanding the puzzle of accounting, not necessarily just the number, but what actually created that number, makes the job more interesting. Now, when she talked about just her journey and the jobs that she had that taught her things along the way that have helped her in its success, one of her big takeaways was asking a lot of questions. And I think that can be the difference between loving a job and just being average with a job. Is that rather than taking the job at face value and just pushing out reports, and a lot of times in the financial world, this is where people go wrong because they really don't know when they give those reports, the people don't know what it means or what the answers are. And if the people behind the reporting don't ask the questions and understand the business, those numbers don't come to life. And you can't actually have a discussion about the business without understanding the mechanics underneath the puzzle. And so to do that and to make the job, in quotes, not boring, it's important that we get out of our chair, we get into the operations and understand how things operate. And she talked about that in a few different areas, and especially with her father that worked at Mead that was in risk management, but he actually went and learned how paper was made. What is the actual process in order to understand the business better so he could do his job better. So rather than looking at what we do as a cog in the wheel, how do we get out and understand from a broader level what our piece of the total operation is so that we can make a bigger impact and people understand what we do, how we impact them, and how we can help them. Because when we serve, then we become more valuable to the people around us. Now, another big takeaway is her positive energy, and it's really given her confidence to keep going after things because people relate and want to be around someone that's positive and open to meeting new people. When we close ourselves off or we're not intentional about the energy we put out in the world, it actually is a deterrent to other people. And we may blame other people that they must not like us or whatever it might be. But a lot of times we have to step back and think about how do we want to show up each day and to make an impact. And I think her examples of making sure that she accentuated something that people already felt about her, but then how does she make sure that everyone has that experience with her, if that's her clients or strategic partners or whatever that is. One of my favorite lines out of this interview is "When in doubt, turn left" from her grandfather. And, that took me back for a moment trying to figure out what that meant. But it is important that we are not always looking at what other people are doing. That we a lot of times know in our gut what the right way is to go. And then when we get too many voices in our head, we start changing course and doing what everybody else does. There are things to listen to as far as advice that are important in anything that we do, but that intuition, that in yoga it's called the intuitive mind, a lot of times we push down because our rational mind or what everybody else is feelings about what rational is get in the way of what our intuition is telling us to do. So I think it's a really important line to remember is that don't always turn the direction that everybody's doing, if not for no reason, but if you feel like there is an opportunity, go for it and be courageous. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. I hope you will take a moment to pause before entering back into your day to reflect on this podcast and note 1 to 2 actions you are inspired to do from today's conversation that you could incorporate into your life. To read the full blog and listen back to this episode or any other, you can find them at www.amyvetter.com/Breaking Beliefs podcast and related videos on my YouTube channel. For daily inspiration, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Amy Vetter CPA. I hope that you will choose to like this and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and more so that you can join us for more inspiration on our next episode.